No, just
Okay.
I am.
Or the person joining you, is it?
Yeah. Because it doesn't go money.
But do you want me to mute mine? Remember you had said.
Lovely participants here at Library at Harbourfront, and of course, to our lovely participants on Zoom as well. Hello, good evening, everyone. So my name is Modyiyer, and I'm a librarian with National Library Board, and I'm here today to present to you our session for today, storytelling session for adults. Who says storytelling is just for children? No. Adults are entitled to a storytelling session as well. All right. So today's session is part of the 398.2 Storytelling Festival 2022. So you can see for our on-site participants, you can see the banner over here, 398.2 Storytelling Festival. All right. So today's theme is on detours and disasters. So lots of exciting personal stories that you'll be hearing later on. All right. So today we have our storytellers. We have Mabel, Millie, Helen, Priti, and Juhim. All right. Oops. Okay, it's not sure. Yeah. Okay, let me just show the. We are not able to have this festival without our lovely partner, Storytelling Association Singapore, so who believes in oral storytelling as an ancient art form. And they have started in 2006. Yeah. All right, so it's this lovely history over there. All right, so we've been partners for 8 years already. All right, so today you'll be hearing from our President of Storytelling Association Singapore, Mindy, and she'll tell you a little bit more. Thank you.
Everybody, welcome to our storytelling session. Okay, and it's part, as Modyiyer, our partner and from National Library Board, has mentioned, that this is part of the 398.2 Storytelling Festival that we have every year. And if you're wondering what on earth is 398.2, I'm sorry, Zoom people. Yes, hello. Okay. It is actually the Dewey Decimal number for fairy tales, folk tales. Okay, so if you go to the shelves at the library, you will find stories, the fairy tales, folk tales, and these are from the 398.2 section. So it could be 398.22, 398.23, but the core number is 398.2. So that's a little fun fact for you about why we call our festival 398.2, because the storytellers have will tell stories from a variety of folk tales, myths, legends, and personal experiences. Okay, and as Modyiyer had mentioned, our Storytelling Association practices the art of oral storytelling. We don't use books. We don't use any words. Okay, we basically tell it from our heart, tell it from mind to mind, heart to heart, soul to soul. So that deepens the connection with our audience. And if you want to join as members of the association, please, feel free to get more information from our volunteers, or even at the places around here that we have put the pamphlets and cards. Yeah, so help yourself to it. All right, so part of our 398.2 festival, we've been telling stories over this past week to so many children in the library and on Zoom. Okay, and our theme for this year is journeys. Okay, so we've been traveling around the world, so to speak, with our storytelling. And today we are catering this session for the adults. Okay, so that's 16 years and above. Everyone 16 years and above. Yes. You're all young at heart and such lovely faces. Okay, thank you for being here. And I hope those on Zoom, you are 16 years and above too. Okay, because these are really stories catered for adults. And we chose a very delicious sub-theme for this storytelling session, and it's called Detours and Disasters. Yes, detours and disasters. So you'll be hearing from a group of talented storytellers who will be sharing with you their take on the theme. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce you the first teller, and she is Millie Tan, who enjoys storytelling and painting. In fact, she has prepared a painting just for her story today. So you'll get to see it soon, okay? And she spends her free time visiting museums. Love that. And she loves going for walks in nature. Also love that. I love going for walks too in nature. Today, she brings you the story of Amui, a little girl in Singapore during the Japanese invasion in 1941. So, ladies and gentlemen, and those on Zoom, will you please help me to welcome Millie?
Yeah, you can see a row of shop houses along New Road. And there is a house on the second floor, 142 New Road. There was once a Chinese family who stayed there. And Amui is the youngest daughter, 6-year-old. She's on the balcony, and overlooking the balcony across the road is Duxton Plain, which was once a forest. In the year 1941, December, it was World War II. It had begun. Japanese warplane flew over our skies and dropped bombs that landed on Singapore and hit us, causing explosion and outbreaks of fire. People fled into the forest to hide, with the enemy chasing fiercely behind them. The old and weak were trampled to death. The enemies could not see in the dark, so they listened to the sound of people running. And mothers, afraid of being caught, accidentally smothered their babies to death. My father was working as an admin staff at the city hall. One afternoon, he came home running up the stairs, flung open the door and rushed into his room and gathered all his books that were written in English, birth certificates, marriage certs, and all documents, including his precious saving box of English sterling pounds. He gathered them, went into the kitchen and threw them all into the fire and made sure that they burnt into ashes. Mother was stunned and she said, "Lao Gong, what are you doing? You're burning up our savings, our money, 我哋個錢." And father said, "老婆，日本鬼打入新加坡啦. If we were to be found having anything connected to the British, we'll be killed. For we know the Japanese hated the colonial rule." Now, Amui was the youngest daughter, and she was playing in the kitchen. She looked up and she thought, "What is Mama and Papa doing? And all the black ashes flying about, so dirty." That night, as Ika put her to bed, she told Amui, "Amui, 從今以後唔得去 balcony and play. 有壞人嚟." What is 壞人? Bad people? Well, a few days later, Amui again went to the balcony to play there. And through the peepholes of the balcony, she spotted strange people moving in the forest. Those were Japanese soldiers setting up tents. And she thought, "Hey, this must be Wayan. Wayan." And she ran into the kitchen and almost knocked Koko over. "Koko, Koko, Wayan is here. Wayan have come." And Koko said, "Amui, quiet. What did I say? No going to play at the balcony anymore." From then on, the family changed. They would speak softly, for they were afraid that the voice carried by the wind that blows through the forest just across the road could be heard by the enemy soldiers. They would whisper. They would even walk gently on the wooden floorboards for fear of being heard and noticed by the enemy. When night fell, Mother no longer lit the oil lamp. And you know what? Father changed. Previously, whenever he goes to work in the morning, he would sing and laugh and joke. But nowadays, he would leave home before the sunrise and return home in the middle of the night when everyone was fast asleep. He was like a thief. He would bring home sometimes a small bag of rice or some sweet potatoes. So Chinese New Year was coming. And you know, Chinese New Year is the best time of the year. You get to celebrate. And Amoy was looking forward to eating all delicious food that mother cooks for her. And her favorite dish was Ima Ga Dai Nei, which was actually glass noodle fried with strips of haricot and ha mai. And then you also get ha mi ji you bang, which is steamed minced pork cakes with salted fish and ginger and sweet potato soup. And on New Year's Day, you get to receive ang pao. And this means that when you get your ang pao, you get good fortune, good luck, good health, and you become cleverer at studying too. And mother would always put 2 cents inside the red packet. And it was a princely sum. And Amoy was looking forward to receive the ang pao. Then she could save it in a piggy bank. And then, you know, Chinese New Year, you get a nice dress. And she was looking forward to wear a new samfu, which was a hand-me-down from Ikaze. It had small pink flowers. But you know, there are a lot of things, good things that happen during Chinese New Year because there are lots of celebration. And the best day is the 7th day of Chinese New Year, which is everyone's birthday. It's called Yan Yat. Everybody would have aged by 1 day, but then, you know, Amoy would be grown up, 7 years old and smarter. But then one day, father came home in the daytime and he announced happily, Lo Po, we have been chosen, selected by, you know, the Japanese. They know we are going to be transferred to Changi for resettlement. Well, they know that I can write. You know, the children there, if we go there, they will get proper food to eat. And that was that. And so Amoy asked Mama and Coco, Coco, where is Changi? Coco said, Changi, I think is it at the seaside. There's a beach. You will get to see the sea and you can also get to build sand castles. I'll bring you for walks, he said. So the next day, the whole family packed lightly and went down to walk along New Road towards Maxwell Center. It was crowded and Amoy was tired easily, being the little girl that she was. So Coco picked her up and carried her in his arms. Finally, when they arrived there, it was crowded and chaotic. The Japanese could not communicate properly with the local people. It was like a chicken trying to speak to the duck. But you know, they had a group of men, local men, who wore armbands. And these were the informers, the traitors. And they were holding sticks and they were ordering people, you go to the left. And so Amoy and the family were directed to the left side of the road. And some of the people were divided into the right side. The road was clear and you have 2 rows of people. And across the road, Amoy saw her friend, Aying, her best friend, her neighbor. Aying was also going to Changi with her and the 2 girls smiled at each other and waved to each other from a distance. It was a long wait. And then suddenly there was a murmur of excitement. And men started saying, Fat Ye Lai Zhou, Fat Ye Si Fu Lai Zhou, Fat Ye. Fat Ye is the Qin Jiang. He was the leader of the community, an old wise man whom everybody go to for advice and to settle their quarrels and disputes. And Fat Ye and his family have arrived too, and people start to make way for him. And then Amoy turned and saw, Fat Ye and his family were just behind her. Well, never mind, we wait. It was a long wait and the day was getting hotter and hotter. Finally, the trucks arrived and people got up, eager to board the truck. Just then, a Genpei came out, a tall, young Japanese officer with sharp, intelligent eyes. The Japanese military police. He looked at the crowd. Sharp, intelligent eyes caught the stare of Fat Ye, who stood firmly in the crowd, caught the eyes of the old wise eyes. And for a moment, the men stared at each other. And suddenly, the Kampitai shouted, "Stop! People on the left, stop! You are not to go up." At once, the traitors took their staff and waved at the people. "Stop! 你唔好上啊，上，得行." Then we thought, what? I'm supposed to go to Changi. And then the rest of the traitors quickly went into action and waved the people on the right side to go up to board the truck. And then Amoy saw her friend Aying and the family and all those other people, strangers. They went up the truck. And Aying was so happy, waving goodbye cheerfully to Amoy. Amoy said, fair. But the people, of course, were afraid. They dispersed as fast as they could, for the traitors were fierce, waving their sticks. The whole family went home. And that night, father stayed in his room, alone and quiet. Mother, she didn't seem to care what was happening anymore. Few days had passed, and Chinatown seems to be quieter. So after a while, a few days, Gogo thought, why not we go and chill and chat? So one afternoon, the three children, Gogo, Ikaze, and Amui, they went down to Chinatown and wandered the back lane and walked. And then they came to a group of men, the traitors. They were drinking wine and eating guiji, watermelon seed, laughing and joking. And there was an old woman saying to them, 師傅,我求下你講俾我知. Tell me, how is my son? How is my daughter-in-law? Has they eaten? But the men didn't bother. They laughed and joked and kept drinking wine and eating guiji. The old woman in desperation said, 講俾我知. And she grabbed hold of one of the men and tugged his arm. 講俾我知, 我個孫點? How is my grandson? Is he well? The man got up angry and pushed her to the ground. 死爛攤, 傻婆, they are shot dead, thrown into the sea. Stupid woman. And the woman cried and screamed as she lay there lying on the ground. The three children were frightened and they ran home as fast as they could. And that night, Amui cried herself, and she realized and she knew that her good dear friend Aying was dead and gone. And that was the beginning of the Suqing massacre that started in 1942 February, which lasted for 2 weeks. 50,000 Singaporeans were killed. The Japanese renamed Singapore to Sionanto and ruled Sionanto for 3 years. And this is a story that my mother, Amui, told me. So today, I'm very happy to be able to share this story with all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Wow, there are more, well, lovely. There are more faces. Millie's story really reminds me that although we have the official narrative, we learn history, in school, but it is these personal stories that really make history come alive for us. And we must never, ever forget, our family stories. So thank you, Millie. That was a very important story to tell because it is a story of Singapore and a part of history, of Singapore's history that I think if we all go and find out more about our own family history, you will hear more of these kind of stories. Yeah, so thank you very much. Okay, our next storyteller is a long-time volunteer of the Storytelling Association. She has been telling stories professionally since 2000, and she enjoys telling Asian stories to the young and to the young at heart, okay, to portray the diversity of Asian culture. So can we give a big round of applause for Mabel?
Thank you all very much for coming. And I'd like to say thank you to the people on Zoom. Thank you for logging on. Hope you enjoy yourselves as well. My story is from Japan. A long time ago in Japan, there was a young man and an old man. And they both left their village together in each other's company for a journey to a distant province. Now, whether they left for business or for money, or whether it was for love or a promise made, nobody knows. But what they believed is that they had accomplished what each of them had set out to do. And so they were both on their way home to the village. And then winter set in while they were traveling. Winter, an evil time for road users and travelers. And so the two of them, as they were walking back to the village, they came in front of them, some trees that had fallen, and then snow had covered right up to the top and they couldn't walk through. And so what did they do? They took a little detour on a side path, hoping to come out onto the other side, of course. And they walked. And after a while, the two of them realized that it was rather lonely and quiet. There were only two of them. And so they decided to retrace their steps and go back out. But they did not see anything that they could recognize from when they walked in. And so they realized they were lost. Well, what could they do but walk and wonder and wonder and walk? And by the time they finished walking and wandering, it was late evening when they reached the banks of a river, broad and swift flowing. And then gray clouds began to blow towards them. And presently, snow fell. Flakes fell onto the dark river. And the young man, he looked and he said, "So white, oh, so white." And then he turned around and realized that the old man was already seated on the ground, tired from the whole day of walking, feeling so cold, pulling his cloak as close to him as possible and his arms around his bended knees. The young man blew on his fingers to keep them warm, and he thought to himself, we must find some shelter. So he walked further up the bank of the river, and then he came across a deserted hut. It was not much, but at least, oh, praise the gods for shelter on a night like this. And quickly he went back and he picked the old man up and he brought him into it. There was no furniture, no fire, no food. But at least at the corner, there were some dried leaves. And so he laid the old man down. He pulled his straw raincoat as high as he could to keep him warm. Then he himself laid down. And in spite of the cold, the two of them fell asleep. It was around midnight when the young man felt an icy cold breeze on his cheek and he woke up. He looked, the door of the hut was open and he saw the swirling and the whirling of the snowstorm outside, and he thought the wind must have blown the door open and so snow must have come in and covered his feet. Then he felt a presence in the hut and he looked at the old man. There was a lady kneeling, bending her head down so close to his. She was fair and beautiful, and her garments trailing in the wind, and her hair white with snow, and her hands laid out over the old man, and icicles at the tips of her fingers. And as she spoke to him, white smoke flowed out of her parted lips. Then she stood up, tall and slender, and she said, "That was easy." And then she walked to him. And she knelt down next to him. Quickly, the young man closed his eyes and feigned sleep. And then the cold lady held his hands. And if he was cold earlier on, he was much colder now, and he could feel the numbness, the cold numbing his head, and slowly his heart was becoming a block of ice. Is this death? Is this all there is? Well, praise the Lord. Praise the gods that it's not painful. Then he heard the cold lady say, "It's but a boy, a pretty young boy. I can't take him." "Listen," she told him, "you must never speak of me, nor of tonight, not to father, not to mother, not to brother, not to sister, not to betrothed maiden, not to wedded wife, not to sun, not to moon, not to rain, not to wind, not to snow. Swear to me." And he, in his almost deathly sleep, not to wind, not to rain, not to snow. And he fell into a deep sleep. Well, the next time he woke up, the sun was high up in the sky and it was noon. And there was a countryman who had traveled then. He was propping him up, holding him to sit up with a steamy cup of hot liquid in his hand. "Oh, drink this, young man. I don't know why I came this way. I've never traveled this way before, but lucky for you, I'm here. Drink this and you should be all right. And you can get on your way. But I can't say much for your friend over there, you know." And so he drank it up. And he did feel much better. And he stood up. He looked sadly at his friend, but he never said anything to the countryman. And then he made his way home, one day's journey back to his village. And he never told anyone in the village, for it was in his ear what the cold lady had said to him. "You must never speak of me, nor of tonight, not to father, not to mother, not to brother, not to sister, not to betrothed maiden, nor wedded wife, not to sun, not to moon, not to rain, not to wind, not to snow." Well, a few years passed, and it was a hot summer day when he was going home from his evening walk. And he saw a young lady in front of his path walking, weary with drooping shoulders, and her clothes were in disarray. She must have come from somewhere quite far away. So it was very easy for him. Before she knew it, he was striding next to her, and he looked at her. Young lady, quite pretty even. "What's your name and where are you going?" "Oh, sir, I'm going to Yedo. My sister, she's got me some work there, and I'm supposed to be going there. My name is Oyuki." "Oh, Oyuki, you are looking rather pale." It's the hot sun, sir, and I'm feeling a bit." And as she swayed, she suddenly swooned at his feet. So he picked her up like any gentleman would, and her head was on his chest. He looked at her, and his heart gave a little shiver. He brought her home, and he nursed her, and she got better. And immediately she wanted to leave, and he said, "Oh no, you should regain your strength more. Stay the night and then leave tomorrow." And she did. In real fact, she stayed more than that night, because they both fell in love and they got married. And so she stayed for many nights after that, becoming his wife. Well, they loved each other very much, and they were very happy. She helped him in the fields and she did the work at home. And then, because they were so happy, she bore him 7 children, all straight and lovely. She cared for her children. She loved them. She labored for them. And she went into the fields in the hot sun. But all this time, no lines on her head, no wrinkles, and such beautiful young hands. The people in the village, the women especially, they wondered, they were envious how she could stay so beautiful. Of course, she was her husband's pride. Well, one winter evening, after she had put her 7 children to bed, she came into the room where the husband was seated. And then there was a little lamp there. She picked up the stitching and she began to stitch the garment. Her husband, seated on the other side, looked at her, musing. Dear wife, on a night like this, looking at you reminds me of a time. Oh, well, I'm not sure it was an adventure or a dream. She continued stitching quietly. Well, I was quite sure that I wasn't asleep, so it must have been adventure. And there was a lady. Oyuki continued silently without looking up. And I traveled with a friend, but I don't know why I've never told anybody this before. Then Oyuki looked at him and said, then tell me. And so he did. He told her about the adventure he had, about his companion, and about the cold lady. And then she came to me and she made me swear. And Oyuki put down her stitching and stood up and looked straight into his eyes and said, you must never speak of me, nor of tonight, nor to father, nor to mother, nor to brother, nor to sister, nor to betrothed maiden, nor to wedded wife, nor to rain, nor to snow. He was shocked. Oh, husband, you have kept for so long, but now you have broken your promise. Why? Why did you do this? You promised, you swore you would not say this to anyone. And then she stood up and, like as if floating, she went into the room and she kissed each one of their child. And the oldest one said, cold, cold. And the baby, mama, mama. And when she came out, she was slowly becoming a ball of smoke. Goodbye, husband. Goodbye. I should kill you now, but I need someone to look after our children. Goodbye. And the ball of smoke. Now, the husband suddenly realized what he had done. He ran towards her and he tried to hold her down, tried to hold this ball of smoke down, but it slowly disappeared and drifted away, leaving him to realize the disaster he had just caused.
Oh, thank you, Mabel. You know what I love about the stories is that they raise more questions than answers. And I think, with Millie's story, you have family histories that we could all go back and excavate and find out more about them. With Mabel's story, you wonder, what the kind of emotions that the husband and wife have, the secrets that they hold. It's just it's such an emotional story. And yeah, I'm sure that we all have questions, about the stories that we've heard. So I hope by now you realize that, the stories that we tell, it really tickles the imagination. It puts a movie in your mind. I hope all of us will have a movie as we are listening to the stories. And well, our journey of detours and disasters continues with the following storyteller. And her name is Priti. She's the Vice President of Storytelling Association. And she is an enthusiastic, I can vouch for that, engaging storyteller. You should hear her tell. She tells stories in her leadership and her empowerment workshops. Okay, in libraries and schools, you name it, she's done it. She also takes part in storytelling festivals, including this one. We have the honor of having her tell at the 398.2 Storytelling Festival. And her favorite stories to tell, like me, are the funny ones. But I'm not sure if you're telling a funny story today, though. I don't know. You'll find out. Well, can we all put our hands together for Priti?
Thank you. Thank you, Mindy, for that lovely and embarrassing introduction. Now you have built up too many expectations. By the way, that Mindy is the president of the Storytelling Association. So she, I could give you a long list of her accolades as well. If any of you would like to come and take these seats, because I know when you came in, you didn't get a chance, please feel free to do so. Yeah, you can move around, get comfortable. We'll take a second to do that. I don't mind. We're all friends here. Mabel, your stories feel cold. And it's reminding me of a time when I was very wet and cold. I stood at the edge of a cliff, looking over, wondering if I would jump. The hot sun beat down my back, the cold breeze through my hair. I could see a green valley stretched out before me, and the azure blue sky, it didn't have one cloud in it. When I was younger, my friends wanted to take a hiking trip. And naive as I was, I said yes. We were very excited. We took the train deep in the middle of the night to go to the foothills of the Sahyadri Mountains, from where we would catch the train. And this was far away enough from Mumbai, which is where I grew up, to satisfy our parents. And, close enough to satisfy our parents, and far enough that we felt that we were leaving them behind. We were going to catch the train. We caught it in the middle of the night. We were beginning our climb way before sunrise. Now, the Sahyadri Mountains are in the west of India. It's a dry and arid region for the major part of the year. But during the monsoon, it transforms into a lush green paradise. Kala here is from that place, and you can see her smiling as her memories come back. It is a trekker's paradise for sure. The destinations are either scenic, you could go up and ooh and ah over all the views, or it could be an abandoned fort where you would be steeped in history, going through all of the dynasties, of India's rich heritage. You might go to see the migratory birds. You might see an abandoned temple. Because every turn when you climb those lush green slopes, it's beautiful. There's fog kissing it, every slope, babbling brooks at every turn. So many waterfalls that have crystal clear water that you can drink out of even in today's polluted times. Well, enough of the National Geographic Channel, and we'll go back to my story. So my friends and I, we went on this trek, and we began very early, way before sunrise. Up, we were pumped. Did I tell you what our plan was? 15 kilometers up and 15 kilometers down. And we've never climbed before, none of us. Yes, very, very brave, don't you think?
Anyway, so let's get on with it, right? So we were there and we started to climb and we were good. Believe me, I'm so pumped even thinking about it. We made such good time. We were impressed with ourselves. We reached the top. We oohed and ahed over the views that I told you about. We stopped at the waterfalls. We did all of that. And we were still in good shape. And then we rested a while on the top. No cameras, no smartphones and all. I think somebody had a camera and they took a picture or two. And then we started going back down. And we began to walk. And then we were so excited, right? You know what happened? We thought, oh, let's do something fun. We saw a short, a side road, a detour. And every single movie you've seen where there is a bunch of silly teenagers that is walking down a place, right? You've seen those movies. And everyone watching that movie is saying, don't take that shortcut. Don't take that shortcut. Don't take that shortcut. But you know exactly what they're going to do, right? Say it with me. They take the shortcut. Yes, and that's what we did. All the movies can't be wrong. So we took it. We took that shortcut. And we were laughing and joking and enjoying ourselves a lot. I mean, we were young, right? Silly. And we were having a lovely time. And the inevitable happened. We were completely lost. If you have ever been lost in a jungle, you will know how it feels. All the trees look like each other. All the rocks look the same. The sky obviously looks the same. You can't make out where you are, what you're doing, whether you're going around in circles. It was, to say the very least, interesting. And we plunged along, walking. While climbing up, it had been drizzling a little, so we had gotten a little wet and we had enjoyed the, light showers and we had a lot of fun. While coming down, by this time, it had started to rain. It was the monsoon season. And we were getting wetter and colder by the minute. I still remember my feet. So we had worn these white sneakers, most of us, white sneakers with some band or something, and thick sports socks because we didn't have any hiking boots. And I remember my sneakers being so waterlogged with the red mud of the Sayadris that every step we took, we squelched. And it was cold. It wasn't cold like Mabel's story because it's a tropical climate after all. It wasn't freezing. But our clothes were so stuck to us that, we pull off a sleeve and it comes away with a schlack sound. And there was no difference between us and the elements. We really didn't know what was happening. And we're still plodding along, walking. God knows where we are going, but we are walking through the mud. And then finally we realize, the morale goes down. The morale goes down because now we are scared, right? It's getting darker. We know there are pit vipers. We know there are scorpions. We know there are kraits. We know there are definitely cobras, 100%. It's the Sayadri Mountains. And we are still plodding along. We are hungry. All our chips, our cookies, our drinks, everything is done. We don't have any more food. And it is dark, pitch dark. Not even a star in the sky because it's the rainy season and there are clouds on top. Finally, one of my friends sat down by the side of the road. No, it wasn't a road. Believe me, it was a clearing little bit where some 3-4 trees were. And she sits down and she begins to cry. I'm not taking one more step. One of the boys, he takes out and punches a tree. A Hindi film hero. I don't know what he was thinking. And now he had bleeding knuckles to deal with. The other one, another one says, oh, we are going to die. And 2 or 3 of us, and we're like, we're attempting not to panic. I'm certainly praying, God, get me out of here. Get us out of here. Get us out of here. God, do something. Now one of us was already sitting around in the mud, and the others was, knuckles bleeding. So we kind of settled around there, and we said, okay, so what shall we do? Shall we go, shall we continue to plod and risk a twisted ankle? What shall we do? Or shall we wait for the morning? And we sat there arguing. You know how it is when you come out of the same door that you walk in? That is what we were doing, round and round the garden, like a teddy bear. And we kept doing that on and on until, hallelujah, we saw a light. I would like to think it was the light that Moses saw, but it wasn't. It was only a torch, but oh, God bless that torch. It was a party of trekkers that that was on its way and had found us. The tears of joy, the hysterical laughter, the prayers, the thank you prayers that went up, you only had to be there to believe them. And the trekkers laughed with us and told us, you're very far from one small village settlement. But of course you wouldn't, and I think they said it to make us feel better. You would never have found it because the jungle was so dense and dark. And they led us there to this settlement. We followed them. Oh, the villagers, they were so kind, so good to us. I cannot tell you the feeling of the first thing that they gave us. It was, I don't know, if you've been to Starbucks, you know what chai is. If you're Indian, you definitely know what chai is, right? But this chai was different. It had ginger, it was hot, it was sweet. It was heavenly ambrosia to a bunch of wet, frightened, miserable children. They gave us some warm food. Some of us had warm clothes. And we all slept in those huts on the hard mud-packed floor on these chatai mats, straw mats. And we slept there as though we were sleeping, on the softest mattress. The next morning, the trekkers promised to take us down. But that day, would you believe, dawned bright, hot, and sunny. Not one single cloud in the sky. Not one. No rain. And they said, come with us. We're going abseiling or rappelling. And we'll take you, and then we'll finish that one trek, and then we'll come down and we'll drop you off to the train station. Of course, we agreed. We weren't taking any risks. We wanted a guide. And so we followed these trekkers. And they led us to a 100-foot cliff. And one by one, I see these people getting into harnesses and jumping off. I remember the instructor. He was an ex-army major or something. So normally when you abseil, you sit in the harness and you, with your feet, you walk down. You sit and walk. This gentleman stands, this is his face, right? So he stands face forward, does this, and runs down that sheer cliff, just holding a rope, no harness. And my mouth went, oh, I think it must have hit my knees. And everybody else, we were clapping and cheering and, everything forgotten. When he came down, he looked at all of us and said, I saw you watching. You guys want to try? And I think I must have not had enough adrenaline the previous day. I said, yes. And that's how I found myself standing there on the edge of that cliff, looking over, with the hot sun beating down my back, that breeze in my face, the azure blue sky with not a cloud in it, and a green valley stretched out. If you're wondering, I did jump. That cliff called me and would not let go. As I stood there, as I got into the harness, my heart raced, my knees knocked, my hands were sweaty under the gloves as I held the rope. But I jumped. And when I reached down, I knew I wanted to do it again. So there began my love affair with jumping off of mountains. And I did it over and over again. And of course, my adventure of saying yes, yes to every detour that comes along, because you never know what might happen. Thank you.
It was not exaggerating. That was exhilarating. Wow, just hearing her tell made me feel all the sensations, the anxiety, and I was bearing my face in my hands. No joke. Okay, I really was. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Those on Zoom, we've heard a family story. We've heard a story about husband and wife and the detours, and now we've heard an adventure story, and how detours can seemingly turn into disasters, but in the end it becomes quite an interesting learning experience. You sort of meet people and you face unexpected outcomes, right? So Priti's story really reminded me of a time when my husband, who's standing right there, he made me climb Adam's Peak in Sri Lanka. Okay, I'm not gonna tell the story, okay, but yeah, I just remembered when I was climbing up and climbing down, I was cursing and swearing. And the one thing that I really wanted, which I never asked for, was a bottle of Coke, which I don't drink, but that was what I really wanted when I came down. So thank you, Priti, for helping me relive that moment again. But I agree with you. Say yes, or be open to challenges, be open to risk, right? Yeah, because then you have that. Your life will be different. That's a lovely message. Okay, so now we have another storyteller. She's been telling stories for a very long time. Helen enjoys telling stories to all ages, and she tells from preschoolers to adults. She's a school counselor, and she uses stories to heal, to inspire, and to motivate her clients. So without further ado, please help me to welcome Helen.
Thank you, Mindy. Mine will not be such an adventurous story like Priti's, and it's not a personal story, but maybe you can decide for yourself whether the story is true. Once, a very long time ago, long even before you and I were born, there was a man, a shepherd. Every morning he would bring his flock of sheep up into the mountains, looking for greener pastures by the shores of a mountain lake. One morning, when he had led his sheep up to the lake and he was resting there by the shore, he was astonished to see a beautiful woman with flowing pink satin robes sitting on the surface of the water. Yes, on the surface of the water. Unaware that anyone was watching her, she was combing her long flowing hair, looking at the surface of the water, using it as her mirror. The shepherd was beside himself. He went, a gasp, and he moved forward. Whether it was the sound or the movement that startled her, I cannot tell. But she looked, and when she saw this man coming closer with arms like beckoning her, she quickly dived into the water and disappeared. No, look, wait, don't go. And he waited, but she didn't appear. The next morning, he went again to the lake and waited. But she didn't appear. He did this for many mornings, and at times he thought he could see a glimmering on the surface of the water, as if this lady was under, haunting him. Every morning when he went, he would leave a gift by the shore. And the next day when he appeared, his offering was gone. So he knew that one of these days he will see her and get her home with him. He was so obsessed with his passion for his desire to have this woman for himself that he even went there at night, every morning and every night. And at night, he would look out and he would chant across the lake, "Lady of the lake waters, come to me. I love you, be my wife." But nothing happened. He was so besotted with this woman that he neglected his flock of sheep. One by one, his sheep wandered off and he never bothered to bring them back. The weeks passed. The months passed. How do you think he felt? Then one night, as he was there the same way by the lake, where the moon was high, he sang out his chant once again. "Lady of the lake waters, I love you. Please come to me and marry me and be my wife. I cannot live without you, please." And all of a sudden he saw the lady rising up from the waters, gliding across the water towards him. She laid her hand on his outstretched palm and went ashore. "Shepherd, I will consent to be your wife. But don't say anything yet. There is one condition. Never should you be rough with me 3 times. For if that happens, I will vanish from your life and never return." "Lady, never will I be rough with you. I will love you with all my life." And so he brought her home. And as they were moving, he heard sounds behind him and he looked. And there, following them, were flocks of sheep and herds of cattle. He was overjoyed. Here, he was in possession of his beloved, and he also had wealth. "This is my lucky day," he said. They got married. And for a long time, it seemed like they were happily married. And now, because he had wealth, with flocks of sheep and herds of cattle, his status was elevated. He was now a farmer, well respected in the community. And he and his lady, they were invited to all the events in this village and other villages. One day, they were invited to a christening of a newborn baby. And during the ceremony, the villagers were startled by, "Oh no! Misery, oh misery! What do you think you're doing, you foolish woman?" Now, this woman, she could see into the souls of others. And in between her sobs, she told her husband, how can I be even rejoicing? I weep because this baby is born into a family that doesn't want her. The woman is poor. She has so many mouths to feed. One more will tire her even more. So why should I not weep, my husband? Stop it, you foolish woman, and stop embarrassing me. She looked at her husband right in the eye and said, that is number one. The man remembered the condition, but in his arrogance, he told himself, I have 2 more chances. That's okay. Time passed, and they looked to be happily married. And one day, they attended a funeral. The funeral of the mother of the baby that had been Christian a year ago. And during the funeral service, the villagers were once again startled by how she reacted. She clapped and sang and danced. Oh, joy, rejoice, rejoice. Once again, the husband grabbed hold of her wrist. What do you think you're doing, you foolish woman? Stop embarrassing me once again. Oh, and she told the whole village, don't you think we should rejoice for this woman? She does not have to suffer her poverty. She doesn't have to suffer the humiliation of the beating by her husband. She's now at peace. She's in a better place, so we rejoice. The man again caught hold of her. Stop embarrassing me, you foolish woman. She gave him a glare. And that is number 2. He remembered, but do you think he cared? Because he thought to himself, I will never do it again. I'll never be rough to her again. The weeks passed. The years passed. And one day, they were invited to a wedding. The bride was very young, and the groom was a man much, much older, but with much wealth. At the wedding, amidst the festivities, the dancing and the singing, everyone heard, oh, misery, misery. Woman, what do you think you're doing, you foolish woman? Isn't there any day that you will not stop embarrassing me with all these villagers? But husband, rejoice, because today's wedding is the marriage of youth to age, because of riches and because of wealth. And that is a bad bargain. It is the beginning of their misery. And my husband, today is your beginning. For this is the 3rd and last time that you are rough with me. She wrenched her wrist away from her husband and said to him, Farewell. She moved off hastily. No, 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 wait, wait. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Come back. Give me another chance. I beg of you. But she moved at such speed that she was out of sight and out of hearing. He ran to his home, to this farm, but the farm was empty. The woman was gone. The sheep, the cattle, they were all gone. He ran up into the hills to go to the lake where he had first found her. And as he went up to the hill, overlooking the lake, he was just in time to see this woman with the pink satin robes disappearing into the waters below, followed by all the sheep and the cattle. The whole hillside was empty. The whole valley was quiet. The surface of the waters was calm. The only sound that could be heard in that valley was the weeping of a man. A man who knew that everything was lost, that he had lost this woman who he had cherished above everything else, but forgot to give his unconditional love. His detours had turned into disaster. Thank you.
Oh my God, sorry, I forgot my mic. Indeed, thank you, Helen. Ooh, yes, that was a disaster, sorry. And I think as long as I remember you telling stories, you've been able to wrench the emotional, yeah, cannot. When I was at the back there, I was just feeling that story through and through, and I feel like, where the stories we've been hearing so far, they've really gone into the gut of your being, so my thanks to the storytellers. But it's not over yet. We have one more teller, and she is none other than Ju Him. She's sitting right there. Okay. And Ju Him is actually she's a storyteller. She's a facilitator, a trained early childhood educator. She's also a trained lawyer, mother, and a longtime volunteer at AWARE. Now, she currently runs the Birds and Bees program. So parents, if you're a parent, you might want to speak with her later about what this Birds and Bees program is about. Okay. And yeah, she's been telling stories for a long time as well. And I remembered her, when I came into the association, when I became a member of the association, I really enjoyed listening to her story. So let's welcome Ju Him.
When Jolene arrived for the orientation at the hall in the university, she was still in a slight state of shock. She could not believe that her parents had actually agreed to let her stay in the hall instead of making her live at home with them. But Jolene had done well for her studies all her life, and she got into one of the more prestigious faculties at the university. So she managed to convince her parents that the 1 hour commute one way, the time spent could be better spent doing her work and getting good results. And to her great surprise, her parents agreed. This may not seem like such a big deal to you, but you must understand one thing. Jolene's parents were really, really strict. all through to the end of JC, she had to be home by 6:30, no matter what was going on in school. So Jolene found that she missed a lot of the programs, the campfires that had went on in school and all the social activities with her friends. And camps? Don't even ask her parents. Definite no. So Jolene arrived at university, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to embrace campus life and university life in all its glory. She was also one of the most innocent and sheltered students the university had ever seen. She was really enjoying the orientation program, till suddenly, this boy started inserting himself between her and whatever else was going on. He would squeeze uncomfortably close to her and try to get her attention and talk to her. Jolene felt increasingly uncomfortable, but she had no idea what to do. So she could only sort of inch herself away slowly and move away and try to keep herself as far away from him as she could. The fifth or sixth time this happened, her knight in shining armor appeared. He strode across the field and inserted himself between that offending boy and Jolene. And he turned to him and said, "Don't you have a sister at home? How can you treat girls this way? Stop harassing Jolene." And that boy slunk away shamefaced. And then Sam turned to Jolene and flashed a big smile at her, a smile that to Jolene was as bright as sunshine. And Jolene was absolutely smitten. But Sam was a senior. She found out that he was part of the organizing committee for the orientation. He was older than her and really popular. And Jolene thought, never in a million years would he pay attention to her. He was so far out of her league, they were not even on the same planet. And so Jolene was content to admire him from a distance and to enjoy the few words he said to her. But after a few weeks, she found, to her great surprise, that they were moving around in the same friend groups. They would convene impromptu matches of ping pong, or go out for late night snacks at the prata stall. Or the group of friends would go and watch many, many movies together, as many as their time, resources, and their pockets would allow. One day, Sam asked Jolene to go for a movie, and she agreed, thinking all the other friends would be there. But when she got to the bus stop, she saw that Sam was all alone. And he gave her this lopsided grin that set her heart aflutter and said, "I guess it's just the two of us. Are you okay with that?" Jolene was more than okay with that. At the cinema, halfway through the movie, Sam reached across and held Jolene's hands. And from then on, she didn't hear another word that was happening on screen. The next day, when Jolene and Sam started walking around together on campus, their close friends gave Sam a knowing wink and a big smile for the two of them. Now, Jolene was very careful to make sure she did her work well. She did not want to risk and give her parents any excuse to take her out from the hall. To her, that would be the biggest disaster on earth. And so she was conscientious and she kept up with the work. And when the exams were coming around the corner, she told Sam that she had to focus on the work and she would see him again after they were over. So the long days passed and finally exams were over and they could hang out again. So one weekend, they went out for a movie that they liked so much. And after the movie, Sam asked Jo, for that's what he called her, if she would like to go with him back home. And Jo agreed excitedly, thinking that she would get to meet his parents that he talked so much about and his sister that he loved so much. When they got there was nobody at home. And Jo immediately felt a little uneasy. But she told herself, don't be paranoid. Stop thinking like your mother. It's fine. He's my boyfriend. And his parents will probably be home soon. So Sam showed Jo around his home and to his bedroom. And he took out his nice, expensive guitar that he wasn't allowed to bring to campus. And he played and he serenaded her and sang for her. And then he played Love Story. And Jo started laughing and said, I thought you said you don't like Taylor Swift. And he said, for you, Jo, I'll learn any song there is to learn. And he reached over and kissed her. As they'd done many times before, they kissed and they started making out, which was rarer because Jo was very, very careful on campus. She didn't want to give anyone an excuse to kick her out of the hall. And then Sam carried on and he started taking Jo's shirt off. And Jo froze. And Sam noticed and said, it's okay, Jo. My parents won't be home for a while. Nobody will catch us. We're not in the hall anymore. It's okay. We're safe here. And Jo didn't know what to do. Up to that point, she had felt this delicious tingling up and down her arms and her legs. But now suddenly, the butterflies that were fluttering gently in her stomach suddenly turned to ice. And she kept telling herself, it's okay, it's okay. He's my boyfriend. Nothing bad will happen. I've been too affected by what my mom said. For you see, one of the things Jolene's parents had always said when they saw groups of boys and girls hanging around, and they made such disparaging remarks of them, Jo was certain that she ever turned out to be one of those girls, it was a fate worse than death. And so Jo was consumed with confusion, and part of her was like in love with this boy in front of her and curious as well. But part of her was feeling such guilt and shame. And all of a sudden, from who knows where, a voice started in her head saying, "You're a slut. You're a slut." Jo didn't say anything, and Sam carried on. And then Sam took off his own clothes, and he took off the rest of Jo's clothes. And again, Jo didn't know what to say, and she tried to move away. And again, Sam held her hand and whispered, "Jo, I love you so much. We've been waiting for this, haven't we? I know it's your first time. I'll be gentle. I won't hurt you, Jo." And Jo's mind went numb and she froze. She had no idea what to do at all. And she could only feel the ice growing in the pit of her stomach and the burning weight of disgust and shame wrapping her like a cloak instead of Sam's arms. None of this was known to Sam, and he carried on and on. When everything was over, Sam reached out to give her a cuddle. But Jo realized that she couldn't bear to be touched at all. She made a hasty excuse about forgetting an important appointment with her parents and needing to go, and quickly got dressed and left. And Sam was like, "Jo, wait, what's wrong, Jo? Why are you angry with me? Did I do something wrong? Jo, wait, don't go." But Jo quickly ran off. But she didn't go home. She couldn't face her parents. She didn't know if she could face her parents ever again in her life. She went back to the hostel, went into her room quietly and locked the door and kept all the lights off. When anyone knocked, she pretended she wasn't in the room, and she silenced the phone and did not look at it. And she sat there in a mess of confusion, thinking, I didn't say no. So it's my fault. And he's my boyfriend. Everybody does it in the hall. I hear stories all the time. So it's my fault I'm feeling like this. And meanwhile, the voice kept going, except it had changed. I'm a slut. I'm a slut. I'm a disgusting, despicable slut. When she finally picked up her phone, she saw that Sam had left half a dozen messages and called as many times. And in his messages, he was saying, Joe, what's wrong? Talk to me. What did I do to make you angry? I'm sorry. Please, Joe, I love you. I thought you loved me too. Joe didn't know what to say to him. She barely knew what to do with herself. And she sat there in the dark, full of revulsion and shame, feeling like she had no one to turn to, no one to talk to, and nowhere to go. Now, this is not the ending I would like to leave you with, and I'm sure this is not the ending that any of you would like either. But we all know so many Joes and Sams. And whether this incident, this episode is just an unfortunate detour in their lives, or whether it becomes a complete, utter disaster for Sam, but especially Joe, I think that we all have a large part to play in how the story will end.
Thank you, Johim, for that. Such an important story to tell, to share. And now you allow me to share with you about something that our Storytelling Association is going to do this December. Okay, so we have a workshop for parents, all right? It's called Tell Me a Story. It's going to be conducted by one of our storytellers, Roger Jenkins and Wong Sui-Yen. Okay, so you can, what's that word? Scan the QR code, okay, to join the workshop. And also we will appreciate these workshops are taking place in December, yeah. So you may find out more information. And then we also have a QR code for you to scan if you enjoyed the storytelling sessions. My thanks to all the storytellers. I would like to invite all of you up now. Can we have Millie, Mabel, Helen and Johim and Priti. Yes, Priti, get away from there. Let's give them a big round of applause for sharing their amazing stories today. Maybe don't block the QR code. Yeah. And yeah, I hope you had a wonderful journey with them through detours and distractions. Yes, Jeff. Oh, Priti, yes, Priti, don't hide. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Okay, and thank you to the Zoom audience. We really appreciate your presence, okay? And all of you here as well. Thank you very, very much. So we will end the session for the Zoom. Oh, you're going to take, okay, yeah. Okay, go. No. Okay, and those who are here, we are selling something called the storytelling dice, okay, that we are selling for a steal of $10. No, we're not saying anything. It's, okay, my husband is showing you the QR code there. All right, just $10. And how you can play is that you and your friends or your children, you just throw the dice and you pick out one dice to start the story, and your friends or your children can continue the story using the dice. Okay, so it's right there. Please go and see Gerald. He'll be there to help you scan, help you with your whatever you need to get the dice. Yes, you need to pay. It's $10, okay? It's not free. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, storytellers, is there anything you would like to say to your audience today?
We'd like to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming
Yeah, feel free to stick around to ask them questions.
as well.
Yes. And be one of us. Yes. You can check out our website, storytellingsingapore.com, to be members, okay, and explore the art of oral storytelling, okay. It's a beautiful art form that we will love to have more people in Singapore join us and be part of this. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay.